In the beginning, before Eve walked in the Garden of Eden, there was believed to be another woman, a figure whose name has echoed through millennia, whispered in ancient texts and feared in the darkness of night. This is the story of Lilith, the first woman, a being who defies, who refuses to submit, and who becomes something far more complex than simple tales of rebellion suggest. Before we journey into this ancient mystery, if you find value in these explorations of mythology and history, please subscribe and follow this channel. Your support helps us continue bringing these forgotten stories to light. The story of Lilith begins with a careful reading of the Genesis creation account. In Genesis 1 verse 27, the text states, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them." This verse describes a simultaneous creation of male and female. Yet in Genesis 2:21-22, we encounter a different narrative, one where woman is formed from Adam's rib after his creation. This apparent contradiction sparks a question that echoes through Jewish mystical tradition. Who is the woman created simultaneously with Adam in the first account? Ancient rabbinical scholars, confronting this textual puzzle, develop an answer that becomes central to the Lilith tradition. The woman of Genesis 1:27 is not Eve, but rather a first wife, Lilith, created from the earth just as Adam is created, equal in her formation, identical in her divine origin. The most detailed account of Lilith as Adam's first wife appears in the Alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval text dating to somewhere between the 8th and 11th centuries CE. Though late in composition, this work draws upon earlier oral traditions and midrashic speculation about the first woman. According to this text, Lilith is formed from the earth simultaneously with Adam. From the very beginning of their existence together, conflict emerges. The dispute centers on a fundamental question of equality and submission. When Adam approaches Lilith for intimate relations, he demands that she lie beneath him. Lilith refuses, arguing that they are equals. This is not a minor domestic dispute. This is a fundamental challenge to the hierarchy that Adam assumes is natural and divinely ordained. When Adam will not relent, Lilith takes an action that reverses everything. She speaks the ineffable name of God, the true name of the divine that holds creative and destructive power. The moment this sacred name passes her lips, she acquires the power of flight. She rises into the air and flees from Eden, departing to the region of the Red Sea. Adam, finding himself alone, turns to God with his complaint. The Alphabet of Ben Sira records that God sends 3 angels after her, Senoi, Sansenoi, and Semangaloth. These celestial beings pursue Lilith to the Red Sea, a location already heavy with symbolic meaning in Jewish tradition. The Red Sea represents both salvation and destruction, the place where Pharaoh's armies drown and where the Israelites pass through to freedom. They are dispatched with a divine mandate: retrieve Lilith and return her to Eden, to Adam, to her ordained place. At the Red Sea, the angels find Lilith in what the text describes as the mighty waters. However, the angels arrive only to find that Lilith has already given birth to demon offspring. The texts do not explicitly state who fathered these children. Some traditions claim that Lilith engaged in unholy unions with demons by the Red Sea, while others suggest a union with Samael, who in certain traditions is identified with Satan, or the angel of death. Another belief holds that Lilith stole Adam's seed before fleeing and used it to bring forth demonic progeny. By the time the angels discovered her, she was said to be surrounded by countless such beings. The text of the Alphabet of Ben Sira specifies that she produces more than 100 children daily, an impossibly prolific rate that marks her transformation from human woman to something else, something supernatural, something dangerous. The true nature of her offspring remains shrouded in mystery, described only as demons or spirits. The angels deliver God's command: return to Adam or face the death of 100 of her children every day. Lilith refuses to submit, choosing to accept terrible consequences rather than return to Adam. She threatens to corrupt human children, and even childbearing mothers, into demons. After a violent confrontation with the angels, she agrees to certain constraints, though she never consents to return. According to tradition, Lilith vows that wherever she encounters the names or images of the 3 angels, her power will fail. This vow becomes the basis of a protective custom. For centuries, Jewish families have inscribed these angelic names on amulets placed in birthing rooms and near infants' beds to guard against Lilith's influence. The name Lilith appears only once in the Hebrew Bible, in Isaiah 34:14. In this prophetic text describing the desolation of Edom, the verse mentions various wild creatures inhabiting the ruins. Among them is the Lilith, often translated as night creature, night monster, or screech owl, though the precise meaning remains debated among scholars. The Hebrew word itself likely derives from the Akkadian lilitu, meaning of the night. In ancient Mesopotamian tradition, several millennia before the Common Era, we find references to spirits called Lilu, Lilitu, and Ardat Lili, night demons associated with wind and storm, creatures that prey upon men, pregnant women, and children. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest surviving works of literature, there exists a brief but intriguing reference. In the prologue to this Sumerian epic, we read of a hulupu tree, a willow that grows on the banks of the Euphrates. The goddess Inanna transplants this tree to her sacred garden in Uruk, intending to craft a throne and bed from its wood. However, the tree becomes inhabited by three creatures. The Anzu bird nests in its crown, a snake makes its home among the roots, and in the middle dwells the dark maid Lilith, who builds her house in the trunk. The hero Gilgamesh eventually drives these creatures away, allowing Inanna to claim her tree. This Sumerian Lilith figure is not identical to the later Jewish tradition, but scholars trace connections through the thread of ancient Near Eastern demonology, where night spirits and female demons occupy a consistent place in the spiritual landscape. In the vast corpus of the Babylonian Talmud, compiled between the 3rd and 6th centuries CE, Lilith appears several times, though not as Adam's first wife. Instead, she emerges as a night demon, a dangerous spirit requiring ritual precautions. The Talmud discusses a creature called Lilith in the context of miscarriage and childbirth, associating her with the dangers that threaten mothers and infants. This connection to childbirth and infant mortality becomes one of Lilith's most persistent characteristics throughout Jewish folklore. These Talmudic references establish Lilith as a demon, a night spirit, a threat to vulnerable humans, particularly those alone, those sleeping, those in the dangerous liminal state of birth. The Zohar, the foundational work of Jewish mysticism compiled in the 13th century, expands Lilith's role considerably. Here she becomes a major demonic figure, associated with the realm of the Sitra Achra, the other side, the domain of impurity and evil. In the Zohar, Lilith transforms from a mere demon into a cosmic figure, the queen of the demonic realm, the bride of Samael. The Zohar describes her as a hot, fiery female who first cohabited with man, and associates her with the left side of the divine emanations, the side of strict judgment and severity, in contrast to the right side of mercy and loving kindness. The text describes Lilith as possessing extraordinary beauty that she uses to ensnare men. The Zohar warns that when a man sleeps alone in a house, Lilith and her daughters visit him and conceive from him, creating more demons to populate the world. The question of Lilith's family is complex and varies across different sources. In the Alphabet of Ben Sira, as we have seen, she has children whose fathers remain unnamed, presumably demon spirits. Every day, 100 of these children die as a consequence of her refusal to return to Adam. In later Kabbalistic texts, Lilith's primary consort is Samael. Together they rule over the demonic realm, a dark mirror of the sacred union. The treatise on the left emanation, by Isaac ben Jacob HaKohen, written in the 13th century, describes a complex hierarchy of demons with Lilith occupying a prominent position. This text portrays her as mother to vast numbers of demonic spirits, each inheriting aspects of her nature: the refusal to submit, the association with night and wilderness, the targeting of vulnerable infants. Lilith's dwelling place is described variously across different texts. Sometimes she resides by the Red Sea, as in the Alphabet of Ben Sira. In other traditions, she inhabits a great mansion in the spiritual realm of the Sitra Achra. From this throne, she dispatches her agents into the world to do harm. Lilith's powers, as described across various texts, are formidable and multifaceted. Her ability to fly, demonstrated in her escape from Eden by pronouncing the divine name, suggests a command over the air and wind inherited from her Mesopotamian origins as a wind spirit. Her primary threat, repeated consistently across sources, is her danger to newborn children and women in childbirth. The Alphabet of Ben Sira specifies that she has power over male infants for 8 days and female infants for 20 days, periods corresponding to ritual purification times in Jewish law. This has led to centuries of protective practices, including the use of amulets inscribed with the names of the 3 angels, Senoi, Sansanoi, and Samanjalof, and sometimes with the phrase, Adam and Eve, barring Lilith. She possesses the power of shape-shifting, appearing in various forms to deceive and seduce. The Zohar and other mystical texts describe her taking on beautiful female forms to visit men in their dreams. Some sources claim she can appear as various night creatures, an owl, a cat, or other animals associated with darkness. Her connection to sexuality, particularly to sexual experiences outside of procreative marital relations, appears throughout the tradition. She represents the dangerous, untamed aspect of sexuality, pleasure without submission, desire without the sanction of marriage, seed spilled without producing legitimate offspring. Some traditions describe Lilith as particularly dangerous on Wednesday nights and Sabbath eves. Others claim she is most powerful during the waning moon, connecting her to ancient lunar associations of the feminine, divine, and demonic. Certain folk traditions develop around Lilith's legendary beauty and vanity. Some stories claim she possesses a magical mirror that shows not reality, but illusion, and that she uses this mirror to trap souls, or to appear more beautiful than she truly is. Other versions suggest that looking into mirrors at night risks summoning Lilith or attracting her attention, which is why some traditional Jewish communities cover mirrors during certain periods of mourning or ritual. Some folklore describes how Lilith can be recognized. She appears as a beautiful woman with long hair, sometimes with wings, sometimes with bird-like feet. She may reveal her true nature through a lack of shadow or reflection. Stories tell of men who discover that the beautiful woman seducing them is actually Lilith, fleeing in terror when they glimpse her true demonic form. The tradition also preserves stories of Lilith's compassion, or at least her honor in keeping oaths. The protective amulets work not through power to destroy her, but through her sworn agreement to the 3 angels. She keeps her word, respecting the names that bind her. This detail adds complexity to her character. She is not simply a mindless monster, but a being capable of oaths, agreements, and a twisted form of honor. Beyond her threat to infants, Lilith features in legends as a temptress of holy men. The Talmud warns that a man who sleeps alone in a house will be seized by Lilith. This teaching leads to various precautions and practices designed to protect men engaged in solitary study or travel. Stories circulate about Lilith appearing to rabbis and scholars in seductive forms, testing their righteousness. In these tales, the holy man typically resists through prayer, invocation of divine names, or recognition of Lilith's true demonic nature beneath her beautiful exterior. These legends serve both as warnings about sexual temptation and as demonstrations of the power of holiness and Torah study to overcome demonic influence. Some later Midrashic and folk traditions suggest that Lilith does not entirely leave the story after her flight from Eden. These sources claim that Lilith appears to Eve in the form of the serpent, or perhaps possesses the serpent, or becomes the serpent's ally. In these versions, Lilith's temptation of Eve represents her revenge against Adam and against the divine order that rejected her demand for equality. This legend makes Lilith responsible, at least partially, for humanity's fall from paradise. Her refusal to submit to Adam becomes the catalyst not only for her own exile, but eventually for the exile of all humanity from Eden. The woman who would not be dominated becomes the agent who ensures that no one can remain in paradise. According to a late 17th or early 18th century Kabbalistic text preserved on protective amulets, the prophet Elijah encountered Lilith, accompanied by her host of demons, as she traveled to kill a mother in childbirth and take her newborn child to drink her blood, suck her bones, and eat her flesh. Elijah immediately recognized her as an evil spirit and demanded she reveal new protective measures that could be used against her. Lilith revealed her secret names to Elijah and vowed not to cause harm anywhere she saw or even heard those names, though sources disagree on whether she revealed 13 or 17 names, and many variations exist today. This encounter became the basis for the majority of later amulets against Lilith, with one of her names being Strega, an enchantress, either woman or demon. This blood-drinking nature, combined with her nocturnal habits, immortal existence, shape-shifting abilities, and predatory targeting of sleeping victims, establishes her as the prototype of vampire mythology, earning her the title of the first vampire. Medieval Jewish mystical books characterize Lilith as the blood-sucking demon who must eat human blood to preserve her immortality. Because Hebrew law absolutely forbids consuming any blood, viewing it as the sacred seat of life itself, Lilith's blood drinking represents the ultimate transgression, placing her completely outside divine covenant and human morality as a creature of pure evil who predates all other known blood-drinking entities in recorded mythology. The belief in Lilith's power generates an extensive tradition of protective practices. Beyond the amulets already mentioned, various customs develop to ward off her influence. In some communities, garlic is hung above the doors of rooms where newborns sleep, as garlic is believed to repel demons. Salt, representing purity and preservation, is scattered around beds. The practice of staying awake all night on certain occasions, such as the night before a circumcision, develops partly from the fear of Lilith's nocturnal visits. Communities gather to study Torah and recite psalms through the night, creating a protective barrier of holiness around mother and child. Specific psalms become associated with protection against Lilith, particularly Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. This psalm, with its emphasis on divine protection and the assurance that he that keepeth thee will not slumber, provides both comfort and spiritual defense against the night demon. What accounts for Lilith's persistent presence across thousands of years? Part of her enduring power lies in what she represents: the untamed, the rebellious, the aspect of the feminine that refuses domestication. In a world ordered by patriarchal structures, Lilith embodies the threat of feminine autonomy taken to its extreme. Yet she also represents genuine fears: the fear of infant mortality, which was a devastating reality in ancient and medieval societies; the fear of sexual desire outside the bounds of marriage; the fear of the night, and what dwells in darkness. By personifying these fears in Lilith, the tradition creates something that can be named, understood, and defended against through ritual and prayer. The progression of Lilith from a minor reference in Isaiah through the Alphabet of Ben Sira to her full elaboration in the Zohar and later Kabbalistic texts shows how mythology evolves, incorporating new concerns and responding to the needs of different eras. Each generation adds layers to Lilith, making her more complex, more powerful, and more central to understanding the cosmos and the human condition. From the dust of the earth to the realm of demons, from the Garden of Eden to the desolate places of the world, Lilith's journey traces a path of refusal and transformation. She begins as Adam's equal, created from the same substance, with the same divine origin. Her insistence on equality leads to exile, and that exile transforms her into something other: demon, night spirit, the eternal threat lurking in darkness. She is the first wife forgotten, the mother whose children die daily, the seductress in dreams, the strangler of infants, the cosmic principle of impurity and exile. She is the wind spirit from ancient Sumer, the night creature of Isaiah's prophecy, the demon queen of medieval mysticism. In every age, she adapts, while remaining essentially herself, the one who would not submit. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of one of mythology's most complex and enduring figures. If you found this journey through ancient texts and legends illuminating, please share this video with others who might appreciate these deep dives into our mythological heritage. Join us next time as we continue exploring the rich tapestry of ancient mythology and the figures who have shaped religious and cultural imagination for millennia. Until then, remember, the old stories are because they speak to something eternal in the human experience, something that each generation must grapple with anew.